I'm in an environment watching like 17-year-olds have 8 agents running at the same time doing things that are mind-blowing.
You know that feeling when everything is clicking, your business is moving, your head is clear, your relationships are solid, and you actually slept last night? That's being in the pocket. I'm Alisha Esmail, and this is In the Pocket, where we talk about what it actually takes to build something meaningful without losing yourself in the process. Today's guest joining me is Robert. He is a serial entrepreneur who spent a decade building software companies in real estate, scaled teams to over 120 people, and had a successful exit. He's now the co-founder and CEO of Hero Hire, an AI recruiting engine that replaces traditional recruiters with autonomous agents that search over 800 million profiles around the clock. He calls his operating model the Wizard of Oz. The agents do the work, and the humans make the decisions that matter most. I'm excited to get into this with Robert. Great to have you here today.
Great to be on here, Alisha. I'm excited too.
So I gotta ask, you spent over a decade building in real estate software, scaled teams, over 120 people, had an exit, and then you turned around and started over in a completely different category. Now, most founders at that point would take a break. What pulled you back in?
So I did take a little break, kind of. My break was trying to figure out if I wanted to go all in on coaching entrepreneurs. I played around with that and did some other things. And then just, I have a daily habit called a prayer stack. And honestly, that's what led me to where I am today. I just knew, like, the other stuff I was playing around with, like, this is not exciting. This doesn't excite me. It doesn't get me up. It doesn't drive a lot of passion for the day. And then the opportunity for Hero Hire came up. And I said, man, I would love to your point, take on an opportunity that is different per se than most every other thing I've done. Reality is, it's all business, right? And hiring, I did a lot of hiring. So I knew it was a big problem that I had building those companies. And so I was very excited to come in and say, I could get behind this as an opportunity to do something that's not real estate specific, which is what people think I'm all about, and get to cut my teeth in just business outside of real estate. Still serve a lot of real estate people though, which is funny.
Fair enough. And we'll come back to the real estate in a second. I'm curious though, what are founders telling themselves nowadays about why hiring is hard, and what about it isn't actually true?
I think the biggest thing that makes hiring hard for entrepreneurs is that they don't, in my experience so far, the ones that find it harder is they're trying to hire without like actually doing the right hiring. And what I mean by that is they are either one, trying to hire people from their circle of influence, friends, close. They feel comfort in, this person can do that. Right. And that's not necessarily looking for the right person. So then they have all these challenges that make hiring feel hard, when in reality, they just didn't want to overcome the fear of hiring someone they don't know to do a job they need done. And then the other part of it is that makes it hard is they're not clear about what they want. So they know they need to hire someone, but they're not actually clear what that person needs to do. And the fact that they're not clear is going to make the hiring process harder to find the right person. And then even more importantly, when they're on, keep them, because neither of you know what you really want done, and it makes the whole process more challenging.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Now, I know you've done hundreds of discovery calls with SMBs in the last year. What is the one thing that you kept hearing over and over again that you weren't expecting?
You know, I wasn't expecting people to be drowned in hundreds of resumes to find a couple qualified people. I'd never had that experience in my hiring process, but looking on the flip side of what we're building, I realized, AI is helping in the hiring, recruiting, screening process, but it's also helping applicants pump out resumes all over the place. And so the market is flooded with great qualified candidates. And I heard more and more, like lots of people like, we had 83 phone calls for qualified people to only find out only one actually fit any of the criteria that we had. Like, yeah, okay, that I did not expect. It doesn't surprise me though, as I think about it.
Yeah, that's fair. I was just going to say, like, there's got to be a lot more AI schlop out there. So if we flip the script for a second, what would you tell someone writing a resume to actually put on their resume to try and stand out nowadays?
Yeah, I think the challenge is they're going to use AI, and I would recommend they use it because it makes them sound better, right? And I would say tell the truth about who you are, what skills you actually have and experience you have. I think the challenge is people will allow AI to come in and make them sound like something they're not. And then it is lies because that's all going to come to the surface. Like once you get into the interview, if you can't interview to what you put on that resume, then there's no point. Like you just dressed up something that isn't real versus just tell it to be real and it can word it better, but it still should be your real experiences, your real skill sets, and the real things that you're looking to do. Just maybe worded better.
Okay, I like that. Now, I'm really curious about your Wizard of Oz model. So agents do the work, humans make the decisions that matter. Tell me, where is the line, and how do you actually know which decisions a human still needs to make?
That is a great question, and I think I'll answer for our company specific and where that line came from. It actually was from one of my mentors, Dan, that we both know, who was like, this needs to be the Wizard of Oz. You make all the decisions that come up. I think the reality is, let me generalize it too. Wizard of Oz is more of the sense that in the beginning, when I first built an agent, I thought it could just do everything. And I was like, oh, it can't. And it can't make all these autonomous decisions without me. So Wizard of Oz is like you have to build an agent to do the mundane little tiny tasks that it can do every single day and make decisions for it so that it can learn from that and you can learn what it's capable of. And then it can escalate. So the Wizard of Oz, it just continues to evolve across different divisions and metrics. So you're this Oz sitting on top of all of it, right? And all of it has to roll those decisions up to you. And over time, just like a regular employee that you would hire, it can have more autonomy and it can get more done through itself before needing human intervention.
Okay, I love that. I love how you're talking about layers and the evolution of AI. Have you been surprised by what AI can actually handle in your journey so far?
Both. I was first surprised by what AI couldn't handle on my first run of trying to build agents and got really pissed off, wanted to throw my laptop through the wall and get mad at Claude and ChatGPT and all of them next, like, it can't do what it says it can do. Then when I took a breath and realized, okay, there's a structure to business. Let me operate AI the same way. Now I'm blown away by how much it can do when you only give it a capacity and a limit, and you just like a regular person, and you kind of like promote them to the next level of autonomy because they've proven themselves at this level. So that's been a really cool experience, and like I'm actually kind of blown away because I know it can. I'm in an environment watching like 17-year-olds have 8 agents running at the same time doing things that are mind-blowing.
I mean, that's fair enough. When you're getting shown up by a 17-year-old, it's time to really do the work.
Yes.
I've definitely had those moments in the last few months. So hiring and retention are usually talked about as 2 separate problems. But I'd argue the reason most businesses struggle to keep good people, whether that's, employees or clients, start way before the retention conversation. And I know you've been now on both sides of this. So where does it actually start for you?
Yeah, I think it comes back to what I said earlier, that the whole beginning of the retention process begins with being clear about what you want. In my experience for myself, businesses I've coached, and then also clients that we have, what I've seen is people that know exactly what they want and are very detailed about that outcome, the role, the specifics, the more likely they're going to, one, get the right hire to begin with, which then makes retention easier, but it also makes it easier for that client or customer or hire to stay with you because you're both clear about where you're going, and it's also easy to have accountability when there's clarity. Accountability with no clarity is where I think all the retention issues actually happen, because you don't know what you're accountable to, and one of you is going to get frustrated to end the relationship in whatever capacity that means.
Okay, I love that. Accountability with no clarity. That is a powerful statement. What does a bad hire or a bad client fit cost a founder that they're not putting a number on?
Ooh, that's a good one. It costs them so much mathematically because, one, it's the cost of trying to find the hire to begin with. Then it's trying to make them work out for several months, even though they may have been a bad hire or a bad fit to begin with. And so you don't just lose the 6 months of time, because now you also have the time of replacing them, re-onboarding the next person, lost salaries. So depending on the role, I mean, it's significant. It's 6 figures plus in loss on one bad hire. And it's more the time that you've lost and the momentum of what your business could do had you just did it right from the beginning.
So whether it's a bad client or the wrong hire, because again, I feel there's so much overlap there. What would you tell the founder? Because I've been this founder. So What would you tell the founders listening that are, don't want to spend the money on finding the right fit and maybe good is good enough for that role? Or I know this client isn't a good fit, but maybe we can make it work and we can try and meet their needs. What would you say to that person?
Man, I would say overcome your own fears, because I've had the exact same thing. I was the same customer that did that. We'll make it work with this client. We'll keep them longer. The reality is, and if you're in a one-person environment, it won't be as damaging as if you have more clients, to your point, or even more hires. How you operate with trying to make someone work that was never a fit before, client or hire, is seen by everyone. And so you're setting a standard within your business that you may not even recognize is a standard, and it's very low, and everyone else may leave. You may lose clients over it. You may lose hires over it. I shouldn't even say may. You will. Or you've created a standard which makes everything subpar, which is going to affect you in so much more than that one, which seems like the one client decision or the one hire decision. It's way bigger than that.
I think that's a powerful thing. It's just so hard to see sometimes, especially I think when you're a young founder. It's really hard to trust the process, stick to your standards when you feel the pressure of what needs to get done now.
Oh, yeah. And you don't want to lose the customer or the hire because there's money. And when you're a young founder, you're like, I'll take every dollar and figure it out. Maybe costing you more money, a lot more.
Yeah. My business coach recently told me that I need to not be so focused on what's in front of me right now. Not that we don't take care of our current clients, but I wasn't thinking enough about the next 500 clients. And that was a good reminder of kind of like, okay, sometimes you got to step away and not see the trees. You got to see the whole forest.
Oh yeah, that's a good mentor.
So switching gears a little bit here. So you scaled your company to over 120 people. What do you know now about building a team that large that you absolutely did not know when you started?
A couple things. One, when you have a team that large, 120 people don't report to you. So I kind of knew that, but it becomes very clear. There's a rule that I learned along that roadmap, which was, what do they call it? It's an agile term, but it's two boxes of pizza. So the team that can report to you could be summed up in 2 boxes of pizza should feed that room, because any more than that and you're going to have a constraint. So there's levels of managers that have to do that. The other thing that I learned, especially now with AI, is you don't necessarily need 120 people, but you need to think of your AI agents in the same process. That I still do need the same 120 people because they all serve an intricate piece of that puzzle. And that's where I made the mistake in building agents the first time, was thinking like, agent can replace 20 people. No, it can't. I probably need 20 agents that are focused on their individual things. They just could do it faster and better than the same 20 people per se, as long as they have a human that can step on top of that. So yeah, someone has to manage that. There has to be a human decision. It comes back to Wizard of Oz. There just has to be more wizards in that puzzle at 120 people. There's lots of managers that have managers that ultimately funnel up in the process.
Okay, I like that. I feel like I could ask so many questions around that, but I actually wanted to go back to some of your early SaaS Academy days. Being in that room so early, what did it teach you about how to build a company that most founders are still figuring out the hard way?
Man, process first. Profit first is one that everyone talks about, and it's true, and you got to pay yourself. But in SaaS Academy, I learned that it's part of hiring the right person. If you don't have a process already, whether you're bringing in AI or you're hiring a person, you're throwing them into chaos. And chaos is not going to fix the problem you thought you were solving by getting a person or creating an agent. It's just going to 10x the chaos because you don't have a process. So the first early in SaaS Academy, it was a couple things. One, again, comes down to you as a founder being crystal clear about where you're going and what you want, the vision. Then reversing it back to where you are right now. And then to your point, I need to make money, but I also need to look at what's the number one constraint that I have that's keeping me from getting to 500 customers or whatever it is, and only work on that thing. And develop the process for that. Once you have the process, now you know exactly what you want to hire someone for so they can take over the process, make the process better, own it, be accountable to it. But without that, I think SaaS Academy helped me understand that across all the business areas, that there has to be a process. And it begins with me creating the process that I'm doing and documenting that. Camcorder method comes to mind from SaaS Academy days and making sure that's fully documented.
So Hero Hire searches, I heard, over 800 million profiles, but I kind of want to flip it on you. What does the average SMB founder not know about themselves as a hiring manager that's making the whole process harder than it needs to be?
Man, it keeps coming back to clarity. And it is, they're not clear about what they want. They're not clear about what they need and what their problems are that they're fixing. So they think they're hiring someone to solve a problem that they're unaware of. And the reality is I don't think most founders, or at least I didn't early enough on, recognize that I'm the bottleneck at every stage of every part of my business. I'm the bottleneck at every hire. I'm the bottleneck in every marketing decision, sales decision. And it's usually some limiting belief or thought that I have that I'm not aware of, or I am. And it's leading into my words and actions and behaviors that are holding the company back. And across anything, you could apply that to people, processes, AI, doesn't matter. It's still, you are the center of it all. And so you are the capacity limit for the company.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I have a bit of a follow-up question to that. So I know, when a company loses a great employee, there's always almost a moment months before where something was off, but nobody said anything. What would be the equivalent to that in hiring? Are there early signals that a placement isn't going to stick? What do you look for?
Yeah, I think you're going to find that usually in the first 30 days, and people will overlook it. And number one, you have to be clear about the benchmarks that you're setting and a standard that you're upholding. And so if you don't have that, that's already your first red flag for you and the hire, because you're not going to know if they're not working out. But I would say this just comes back to the owner. Trust your instincts more than you realize, because 9 times out of 10, you have the early indicators within that first month to just say, something's off. And I don't know if this is going to work out, but I think the tendency is it's kind of like that trying to hold on to the client that's not a good fit client, that I'll figure out how to make them work. And you take 3, 4, 6 months on a person that you already knew within the first 2 weeks was probably not a fit. You should have just trusted your gut. There's an old saying, hire slow and fire fast. And that's, to me, that holds true, right? You need to fire fast. And first, make sure again, let's not forget that if you're not clear about what it is they're supposed to do, then the issue again comes back to you getting clear. So you have something that you both can agree that they're accountable to. And then if you are clear of that and there is a clear accountability, then trust when they're failing at that multiple times. Verify that they're clear. Verify you've taught them how to do the thing. And if both of those are true, then they're probably not a fit. And don't try to drag this out 2-3 months, because you're just losing a ton in revenue, lost hire, all the potential and momentum.
Okay. Robert, I gotta ask the burning question that's been on everybody's mind in every coffee shop and in every Facebook group for the last little while. Are AI agents gonna replace humans in the workplace? What industries are going first? What are your thoughts on this? I want your hot take.
Oh, it's a loaded question. I come from the era of watching the movie Terminator, so it's like they're going to take over the world. What do you mean? So I always say thank you and please, although that's bad for the LM because it's extra words and tokens. Um, but I don't care. I'm still going to say that just in case it happens and goes that way. I would say I think that AI is not going to replace humans the way that humans think so. I think it's just what I said earlier that when you introduce something into something you're unaware of, you create chaos because things move 10 times faster. And so I think all AI is going to do, especially over the coming years, will it replace things? 100%. And it already is. It's disrupting many things. But what it's really making clear, in my opinion, is there are people who are lazy and don't want to do anything. They don't want to develop skills. They don't want to get better at anything. And they just want to, hide behind whatever. And then there are people who constantly want to learn, grow, and develop skills. I think that the people that want to develop skills are going to learn AI as one of their skills, and they're going to replace the people that don't. And AI just makes things happen so much faster that we're going to see this play out way faster. So I think there will come a point where there's a much higher level of human unemployment, and it will just be the people that don't want to learn a new skill, get better at something, and they're hoping someone else will take care of them, and that isn't usually going to work out very well.
Yeah, that is a loaded topic, isn't it? If I press you on this, what would you say are the first three industries that are going to experience the change the quickest?
Yeah, I think anywhere where there's operational management, let's say, I think hiring's going to be one of those. I think finance is going to be one of those. I think that anything connected to softwares and serving people in a capacity are also, because they're all anything that can be done online and repetitively are going to be the most affected industries the fastest. Things like lawyers, doctors, even it's hard to say because even those are going to be affected from the day-to-day work. You still need the higher level expert, the license, the things. Those will take longer to disrupt, but everything underneath them is going to completely and radically change.
Okay, that's super fair. Since you mentioned hiring, what would you say Hero Hire looks like 3 years from now? Not revenue-wise, but what does the actual impact look like?
Yeah, I think it makes scaling businesses super simple and fast to find the right hire, because as we continue to scale, the amount of data that we're consuming for ourselves and be able to see, we're only going to get way more predictive in who's going to work out versus who doesn't. And be able to help those SMB founders start off more clear with what they need so that they get the right person. So I think that will help in all capacities of that, so that not only do they get the right hire in the shortest time frame possible, but they learn how to keep them longer too.
Okay. So I know you moved recently to Kelowna, all the way from Tampa. It's across and over countries, and you started a new company at the exact same time. How do your energy levels actually look right now? Because that's a lot on your plate.
Yeah, my energy's pretty good most days, but I have very non-negotiable standards and habits in my day that allow that to happen. My nervous system, I think, is the bigger one most people don't talk about, that I'm learning more about over the last couple of years. My
Tell
nervous
us about
system. Yeah, so, people talk about energy and how I feel, but a lot of times you may have low energy per se, but you may not. You may actually have really good energy. You just may be in a flux where your nervous system is adjusting to all the massive change that controls how you think you feel. And so I just allowed myself, coming here knowing like there's a lot of massive things happening all at once. And my nervous system and my family's nervous system is going to go through a period of change. So it's just allowing the space for that to happen and being free. Now I have great energy, but that's habits. Again, I think that's habits, how I eat, how I show up in the morning, how I feel, how I start my day, how I go to sleep at a certain time. Like all of that is gonna keep my energy at a certain level. Now, of course, there are days where I'm like, yeah, I'm exhausted. I've got nothing left. Don't ask me a question, especially my 8-year-old. He loves to grill me on a whole bunch of questions late at night, and he's already spent all day on ChatGPT analyzing, like, did you know? I don't. I can't answer no more questions. I
Oh,
have
that must be
no energy
fun.
for that right now. Oh, it is, but
Yeah.
it's pause. I'm done.
So,
Tomorrow we
okay,
can.
so you're talking about nervous system. You said you have your prayer stack that you do.
Yep.
What did something happen that led to you building these systems into your life, or why? Like, not the average person doesn't keep this at the center or priority.
Yeah, I think for me it was early on in the entrepreneurial journey when I started building actual companies because I worked a lot. I haven't always been an entrepreneur. I've wanted to be, but I spent a lot of time not. When I started building, I just went on this rampage of over a decade ago, like, I'm going to have to continue to put myself in environments that are bigger and more experienced than me. You know, as they say, the circle of influence, the 5 people you spend the most time around or who you'll become. So I just kept going and joining every mastermind, going to every event, going everywhere. And now I'm out of all of that intentionally. But what it unlocked for me was that, like, we have habits that we wouldn't call negotiable or non-negotiable that we already do that we're just unaware of. Everything we do is habitual. We're habitual people by nature. And so once I figured that out, I realized, okay, well, the easiest way to have what I want in life is to figure out how to consistently do what's going to get that outcome. And then you just have to do it every day. Like, I don't have to worry about what's going to happen today. I think there's this one, it might be Simon Sinek that said it, and I loved it. He's like, hey, the first time you go to the gym, I go to the gym and I exercise and I get home and I don't look any different. And I don't feel any different. And tomorrow I do it again and I don't look any different and I don't feel any different. But I have faith that if I follow this course of action for the next 90 days from now, I will look different, I will feel different, and it will have had an impact on me. But if I never get to day 90 because I stopped doing that today, then I'll never get to day 90 and I'll keep searching for that thing. But what I think underneath that is I'll keep repeating the habits that don't serve me and wondering why I'm not getting further ahead in life. And that's been, that I don't know, it was about a decade ago when I started going down a lot of the things that I found that have now just become patterns and routines that work for me. I'm still working through the ones that don't work for me.
I think that's huge, and I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's the forever journey for founders of trying to find maybe not balance but harmony and the systems that are going to work well and serve you well. I have a framework I call the 5 tank framework: emotional, mental, spiritual, relational, and physical. We all have these 5 tanks. When they're full, you're in the pocket, and when they're empty, usually you're anxious, spiraling, blowing up your relationships unnecessarily. Which of those 5 tanks would you say in your journey has been the one that you've maybe struggled with the most or had to stay on top of?
Physical has been the most up and down yo-yoing for me, and it's connected to emotions and spirit and nervous system. But I've yo-yoed too. I've been over 300 pounds in my life, and I've been as lean as 210. And I've went up and down a couple different times over the last couple decades. So that's been the most challenging. Now I found and uncovered it's tied to emotional triggers from childhood that when massive stress would come in, I'll just go to food, and food becomes my peace, which doesn't end up being peaceful after hundreds of days of eating brownies, ice cream, and peanut butter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. I appreciate you sharing that. So last question before I let you go here. If you had unlimited resources and you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do?
I would do exactly what I'm doing right now. I would be building Hero Hire to $1 billion corporation enterprise value-wise, and I would be using that to change the world and give back to the things that I like and finding the harmony, not necessarily balance, with my family to do what we want and enjoy life at the same time. So I love what your intro said of how to build all of this, but without losing myself and my family in my case, because I've done that too.
That's awesome, Robert. I appreciate you joining us today. If people want to find you or learn more about Hero Hire, where do they go?
Yeah, they can go to herohire.ai and talk to Hero anytime. And me specifically, I'm available by my name on any social media platform.
Okay, check out Robert. Go visit herohire.com if you want to get a hold of some amazing people for your team. And if something hit in this episode, share it with a founder or friend who needs to hear it. I'm Alisha Esmail. Stay in the pocket.